What is going on, guys? SkiveWalker here, and I apologize. I meant to have a video out yesterday, just didn't get around to it. So today we're going to be doubling up. Not going to take too much of your time. We're going to be talking about first the end of an era in the Ohio State Buckeyes, and then after that we're going to talk about the New York Yankees a little bit, talk about their offseason, and just some moves that's going on because we have some breaking news for the day. They signed second baseman DJ LeMahieu to a 2-year, $24 million deal. But first we're going to be talking about the Ohio State Buckeyes and the end of an era. If you haven't read the blog yet, highly encourage you to read the blog. I thought it was pretty good for my first time writing one, and kind of will be mirroring a lot of what we're going to be talking about today as we're wrapping up the bowl season. And, of course, with the national title game over with and Alabama getting steamrolled by Clemson, it is always good to see the SEC struggle in bowl games. The Big Ten as a whole went 6-6. So we finished about 500, whereas the SEC only finished about one game over. So the whole talk about conference superiority gets a little bit overblown. You have the SEC and the Big Ten are right there for the two best. The Big 12 is right behind it, even though they don't play any defense, but their offenses are very good. The Pac-12 has Washington, is a pretty decent team, but not very good offensively, but has a good defense. And then that's really about it for the Pac-12. The Pac-12's kind of fallen behind. The ACC's fallen behind. They're probably right there with the Pac-12. Other than Clemson, really not a whole lot of big names. But we're talking about the Buckeyes today. Talking about Urban Meyer announcing his retirement. Ohio State going with Ryan Day as the head coach and taking some Michigan coaches onto their defensive staff. And ultimately, here's where what's gonna hurt the Urban Meyer era more than anything is, of course, we all know what happened last summer with Zach Smith and the allegations of domestic abuse. That's going to hurt Urban Meyer in a lot of ways, but it's not going to be the end-all, be-all with him. Really, the news cycles here in America, and I'm sure just about everywhere else too, it's a big story when something comes out. And, of course, domestic violence is nothing to be messed with, and the people who did that are cowards and horrible human beings. But as soon as the next big story happens, Kareem Hunt happened, and as terrible a situation as it was, and it really is, it's horrifying, and I hope he never gets a job in the NFL again. You no longer hear about the Urban Meyer thing because a new, bigger story has emerged. So at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to ultimately define him. It is a blip on the radar, and a pretty good-sized blip. But ultimately, with his tenure ending at Ohio State, it's going to go down as he always had to lose one game. At least one game. If you look throughout all the seasons from 2012 to this year, he always had one loss, except for in 2012 when he went undefeated his very first year. But, of course, we were bowl banned because of Tattoo-Gate, which I still think is a load of garbage. They were selling their own trophies for tattoos, so they were selling their own memorabilia, really. Even though I think it's stupid, they shouldn't have done it, but it does break NCAA violations. But we got a pretty harsh penalty for it, so we got bowl banned the first year of Urban Meyer. But after that, we lost 2 games in 2013, including a bowl game. We lost to Clemson. Then in 2014, we lost that stupid game against Virginia Tech very early on in the year, but then went on to win the national title in 2014, which was great. 2015, you had that loss against Michigan State at home, which was probably the best Ohio State football team of all time. You got to think Ezekiel Elliott was on that team. Joey Bosa was on that team. Michael Thomas was on that team. A lot of first-rounders. I think we tied the record that year with 8 first-round picks in the NFL draft that year. And Urban Meyer really did choke that game away. He ran JT left and JT right up the middle almost every play, when you have Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield as your bell cow for the whole year, and you decided to run J.T. Barrett instead. So we ended up winning the Fiesta Bowl that year. The next year in 2016, went 11-2, lost the Fiesta Bowl, and really got embarrassed by Clemson that year. 2017, he finished 12-2, beating USC in the Cotton Bowl, and then of course this year, going 13-1 and beating Washington in the Rose Bowl. But that's really it. He's going to go down as one of the greatest college football coaches of all time. He really will be, and he really is. He's fantastic. I mean, he finished his career at Ohio State with a .902 winning percentage. One of the highest in college football history. Overall, he wins 85% of his games. There's going to be a tough to find a coach that can win that often and that amount for that long. I mean, he's been coaching since 2001. So it does seem like he's retiring early because he's only in his mid-50s. But he's been a head coach since 2001. So he's been around here for a while. A lot of speculation is going around whether this was his last coaching job, and I really think it was. I think he's going to be groomed as the next athletic director at Ohio State, which should help in recruiting and help Ryan Day as long as he's not in the way with the coaching aspect of things. And, of course, Ryan Day should be able to glean all that he can from Coach Meyer. It's only right to try to learn as much as you can from a legendary coach and a Hall of Famer, essentially. So, Urban Meyer's tenure is done at Ohio State. Ryan Day is taking over. Dwayne Haskins declared for the NFL draft, which we all expected that he would. Tate Martell is looking to transfer. And Justin Fields has officially transferred to Ohio State as he started classes this week. So hopefully, and according to his lawyer, it shouldn't take very long, but hoping that he's able to play next year right off the rip. And it's looking like Tate Martell could be on his way out, even though he did say that even if Justin Fields transferred, he was going to stay. But, of course, I don't blame the guy. You come here, you waited your turn at Ohio State. You finally are going to get that. And another guy comes in who's probably going to be better than you. And you kind of get frustrated with the school. And I don't really blame the guy. I think players should be able to transfer if they want to. So hopefully Tate Martell is able to play right away next year as well. And I wish him nothing but the best of luck at any other university he decides to attend to. Unless we have to play him, then I hope he stinks. But continuing on with this, like I've already said, the Urban Meyer era will always go down as something that could have been so much more. There was so much more potential that wasn't reached. Mainly because you lost at least one or two games every year. And for most programs, that's a great season. And it is a great season, but at Ohio State, there's higher expectations. So, as thankful as I am that he came in and he really got us out of that dark place, and he really changed the philosophy of offense. Because under Jim Tressel, we were always run the ball, play great defense, which is my kind of play style. But in college football, it doesn't work. And you're seeing that over at Michigan right now with Jim Harbaugh. It doesn't work unless you have the speed, unless you're able to score points with it. If you're able to score points running the ball and playing good defense, you're okay. If you're not able to score points when you run the football and you're just trying to kill the clock, you're not going to win. You're not going to win the national title because teams will just be able to score points on you every time. College is a little bit different. Remember, you're not playing with everybody that's on the college football team is going to the NFL. It's not the case. You're probably going to have 10, 15 guys, and then the rest are going to be maybe get drafted, but then kind of fall out. So that's kind of what you're working with in college. Not everybody's going to be an all-pro. So the ground and pound can work in the NFL. It does not work in college. You need to score points. And Urban Meyer really brought that philosophy to Ohio State and really turned Ohio State into an SEC type of team just up north. So other than his first year, we had at least two losses, at least one loss every year, and sometimes two losses, depending on the year. And we're indebted to Urban Meyer because of that. Not because of the losing every year, but because of who knows what we could have been after that horrifying year of Luke Fickell, where we won about 4 games in Braxton Miller's freshman season. So we had a terrible year under Luke Fickell. Urban Meyer brought us back, put us right near the top of all the recruiting rankings every year since he was there. He was always in the top 5. Of course, this year in Ohio State's in the top 10, but remember, we don't have a whole lot of people leaving. So there's only so many scholarships you can have and you're able to give out. So because of that, Ohio State is ranked 10th because of how many kids came, but based on the scores of those recruits, Ohio State is ranked 3rd. in recruiting this year and score, but not overall because we don't have that many scholarships we can give out. So, Urban Meyer, end of an era. I can't say I'm terribly sad to see him go, only because I'm hoping we don't have that 1 or 2 loss stupid game at the end of the year. If we have a loss, I would want it to be against one of the top teams in the country, not against a team like Purdue or a team like Iowa. I want to be able to run the bowl season or run the conference. You're always going to have Penn State and Michigan State and Wisconsin. You want your conference to be good. You want your conference to be strong. And the Big Ten is tough. The Big Ten is a gauntlet. But the Big Ten was a little bit down this year for a little bit. Michigan was ranked very high, but they kind of fell off towards the end. Penn State, you just lost Saquon Barkley, and now they're going to lose Trace McSorley. So Penn State has a lot of question marks going into next season. But probably by the midway point or towards the end of the season when Ohio State and Penn State play, probably going to be a good football team again. Probably going to be a top 15 team. That team up north is going to be a top 15 team next year. Shea Patterson's coming back. Wisconsin had a very down year this year. Bet you Wisconsin bounces back. Northwestern jumped up this year. Northwestern will probably be back next year. Iowa will be another top 25 team. The Big Ten is going to be good. Ohio State should still be able to dominate those teams and only be able to lose to conference champions. Other conference champions. They should be in the discussion as one of the 4 best teams in the country every single year. So the end of an era, Ryan Day takes over, and Urban Meyer is on his way out. Now we're going to be talking about the New York Yankees with their signing of DJ LeMahieu. I think it was a good signing. For this reason, he's probably just an above average hitter. He's not going to hit for 300 every year. He had that one great year in 2016, slashed about a 276 average last year. This year, though, we'll see. We'll see. I don't think he's going to be the big offensive powerhouse. We don't need him to be that. Ohio State, the Yankees have plenty of firepower in the lineup. What we need is a good contact hitter, which he is, and a great defender, which he is. That's one big thing we're going to miss while Didi Gregorius is hurt. And we may not have it for the whole year, as Didi played a great shortstop. I'm assuming with the signing, Manny Machado is going to be officially ruled out as a Yankee. And it was seeming as the past couple days that it was turning into a long shot anyway, as the Yankees still haven't even gave him a formal offer. And the White Sox and the Phillies are offering him pretty close to the deals that he wants. Not quite the money that he wants, but it's looking more and more like Manny Machado is going to the White Sox, and it's looking very likely that Bryce Harper goes back to the Nationals. But with this move, which is great for the Yankees, gives you that guy who's able to turn over the lineup. He can be your leadoff hitter. He can be your number 9 hitter. You move Gleyber Torres over to shortstop, where he basically played his whole career through the minor leagues and through high school and everywhere in between. When he came up to the Yankees, he had to play second base because, of course, we have Didi Gregorius. But now that Didi is hurt, it looks like Gleyber Torres is going to be going back to his normal position at short. Puts DJ LeMahieu at second, and Troy Tulowitzki will be on the bench, which is probably where Tulowitzki should be able to play. He's played about 60 games all year, or in 2 years. So I was really, really hoping that was not going to be our shortstop for this upcoming season. I was really hoping that Tulowitzki was going to be coming off the bench, and I'm glad he's here. There was at one point where Tulowitzki was considered one of the best players in the game, one of the best shortstops in the game. But, of course, nobody beats Father Time, and Tulowitzki has been injury-prone, and he didn't have the best career over in Toronto. So it was a low-risk, high-reward type of signing with the Yankees, as we only gave him the minimum contract. So him being the utility guy, can't argue about him being a utility guy. It seems like it'll be A-OK. Going on, my expectations for the Yankees this year should be either winning the division or being right there in the division hunt again. all really depends on the pitching staff. It all really depends on who else we sign. We got James Paxton from Seattle, which is a great pickup. I think we may have given up a little bit too much with Justin Sheffield. For a type of guy that you want Sheffield for, you kind of want to go get a Corey Kluber type of player. But James Paxton is still a very good pitcher. Probably would have taken a lot more than Justice Sheffield to get Corey Kluber from the Indians. And who knows if the Indians even want to trade him to the American League. Not only the American League, somebody that you're going to be competing against for the World Series this year and for the pennant this year. For the, not your division, but for the conference, to say. I'm not fighting for the AL or for the AL. So it's very tough to say if the Indians would have done that. It's very tough to say whether the Yankees-Indians trade rumors would have really went anywhere for that reason. Do you really want to trade them to an in-conference rival? Not really, especially not if you're going to be facing him in October. Okay, there's probably a good possibility that the Yankees play the Indians in the first round next year. If the Red Sox keep their unbelievable pace that they had last year, and they had a great season, as much as that is hard for me to say, and I want to spew vomit out of my mouth talking about the Red Sox winning the World Series and having a great year. They did. It's hard to deny it. They were the best team in baseball this year, as evident by their World Series trophy. But if the Red Sox continue on and win the division again, which, again, would put a hole in the bottom of my stomach, but if they win it again, the Yankees are going to be looking at the wild card, probably playing the Athletics again for the third year in a row for a wild card spot, and then probably looking at facing the Cleveland Indians in the divisional round. So very tough to say if the Indians would have wanted to trade him to a team that they're going to face in October, especially in a 3-game series. Would you really want to face James Paxton, Luis Severino, and Corey Kluber? That would have been a very lethal 1-2-3 punch, and that would have been hard to compete with. It really would have been. Some more Yankee news. Sonny Gray is still on the roster, even after Brian Cashman said he wanted to trade him. It's looking more and more likely, unless the Yankees finally find the deal that they're looking for, that Sonny Gray could be on the roster going into spring training. And I was very excited about the trade when it happened. Sonny Gray just hasn't worked out here quite like we wanted him to or thought he would. And it's not to say that he's a bad pitcher. He's still a good pitcher. Just not at Yankee Stadium. At Yankee Stadium, he's got a 6.77 ERA. On the road, he's got a 2.92. So it's one of those things where you don't know if a pitcher can really handle New York until he gets to New York. And Sonny Gray, we thought he could. Sonny Gray just couldn't handle the pressures of being a Yankee, and it's one of the things that comes with it. I was really hoping the Yankees could sign Patrick Corbin and then just kind of get rid of Sonny Gray at that point, but it is what it is. I'm going to wrap this up because I know it's going on 20 minutes. Talking about the evil empire dying, and here's what I mean by that. Back in the day, and what the Yankees are known for is getting the superstar free agents from the 20s till whenever Mr. George Steinbrenner passed away. The Yankees were always in the mix for the biggest names, and they always got the biggest stars because they're the New York Yankees. They're going to pay whatever they want, whichever free agents out there that they thought they needed at that year. They're going to go out and get them, and they're going to pay whatever they need to get them in pinstripes. You're seeing that kind of end here with Hal Steinbrenner and not wanting to spend as much money as his dad did. You got to understand, George Steinbrenner valued winning more than anything else. Even if it meant him not making as much money as he would, he wanted to win. George Steinbrenner was a winner. Hal Steinbrenner, seeming to me like he's okay watching the Boston Red Sox go on and win the division and win the World Series and not make a big splash. The evil empire is kind of dying for that reason. If George Steinbrenner was alive today, he would be rolling in his grave that the Red Sox won the World Series this year. He'd be rolling in his grave. Well, if he was alive, I guess he'd be furious, but he's got to be rolling in his grave now. But if he was alive today, he would not let Manny Machado go to Chicago. He would not let Bryce Harper go back to the Nationals. If George Steinbrenner was here, Manny Machado would be in pinstripes today. Bryce Harper would be in pinstripes today. Patrick Corbin would be in pinstripes today, and probably Dallas Keuchel would be in pinstripes today, along with James Paxton. Because George Steinbrenner didn't care about how much money he spent. He didn't care how much money it took. All he cared about at the end of the day was winning championships. That's why he fired that same manager 3 times, and then rehired him every time. Because he was mad. He got mad that he didn't win the World Series, and he got mad that he didn't produce. So he fired him, and then he had nowhere else to go, and he didn't have any other better manager options, so he rehired him again. So it's, for a lot of people, they're excited that the evil empire's dying. It's kind of when Emperor Palpatine finally is killed by Darth Vader, and Darth Vader also dies with the Emperor's electricity destroying his breathing system, and the Empire's kind of going down. And now you're seeing the rise of the First Order, which isn't as ferocious as the Empire was. So the Yankees still have the money, they have the power of the dark side with them, but they don't use it the same way. They don't use it properly. So somebody who isn't properly trained as a Jedi, using Rey as an example, can come in and beat your leader, essentially, and can basically stop the First Order in a movie. Okay, so it's kind of where it's going here with the Yankees, and it's sad to see it go. It's really when George passed away, it was kind of when everything fell apart. I think Girardi would have been fired a long time ago had George Steinbrenner been alive. I don't know if Aaron Boone would be the manager today if George Steinbrenner would still be alive, because he wanted somebody who can win. And he's not. George Steinbrenner was not the patient person. He wanted to win, and he wanted to win now. With Hal Steinbrenner, you're not getting that. And they're trying to penny pinch money for whatever reason in New York. Maybe it's because they don't want to go over the luxury tax and pay all that money. But to me, you make all that up in half the time anyway. Go spend the money. And it's easy for me to say to spend the money because it's not my money. But it seems like you were still making a profit when you were signing the Reggie Jacksons, when you were signing Alex Rodriguez, when you were signing Mark Teixeira and CeCe Sabathia and AJ Burnett to these big contracts. And maybe the A-Rod contract scared them, and maybe having a contract alongside Giancarlo Stanton's contract scares them when Aaron Judge is going to be coming up, Andy Dewar is going to be coming up, Gleyber Torres will be coming up in a few years, Gary Sanchez as well if he has a comeback year, which I think he will. I don't think he'll be hitting 190 again. If he does, he needs to get his butt out of town. He can go play at Fenway or at Shea Stadium, or Citi Field now, no longer Shea Stadium, but he can go play at Citi Field if he's going to continue to bat 190. So, end of an era really for both teams. For the Buckeyes losing Urban Meyer in Ohio, and the Yankees kind of no longer being the evil empire that they're known to be. So, other than that, guys, hopefully you're looking forward to Saturday. I know I am. The Colts are taking on the Chiefs. We got a bunch of good NFL games. We have another good 4 games coming up this weekend. Make sure you have a safe weekend. SkiveWalker signing off. Peace.